education, job training, and placement. That's our mission statement. And what you need to know, we proudly serve more than 5,700 clients since 2019. There are 3 pathways that we provide out of poverty. Our focus area is entrepreneurship, STEM workforce training and low voltage, asset building. We have 3 asset building classes: increments of success, cash flow, collateral, and leverage. And our newest class is Financial Wellness Village. My name is Frances Smith Dean. I've been the executive director since 2018. I'm your host for today, a business owner, former registered investment advisor, and former mathematics adjunct professor. Jasmine Anderson, our operations manager. She's from Memphis, Tennessee. She has a bachelor's in nonprofit, a master's in nonprofit management, business owner. Her expertise is in construction, management, social media, and real estate. And Audrey Brown, our executive assistant. She has a bachelor's in business administration, but her skill set is in sales. Audrey owns her own notary business. So I want to thank you for attending today's session. And in today's session of our International Living and Working, we have 2 important guests with us today. I don't think that people really think about having the opportunity to live and work internationally. Our guests today will share their personal experiences, how they did it. Our first guest on our panel is Halima Sharif. Halima is the developer and creator of Anything is Everything. Halima is the owner of HS Global Consulting, LLC. She's in communications and public relations. Halima has 30 years of experience in strategic communications, marketing, public relations. Her expertise is in developing successful marketing campaigns in various industries: agriculture, health, education, military, even politics. Her company has worked with Coca-Cola, Bank of America, McDonald's, Merrill Lynch, among other well-known companies. She has traveled extensively, lived abroad, and believes in embracing diversity and is imperative for creating successful global brand campaigns. Our other guest, Makara Wilson. Makara is an undergraduate student at the University of Chicago. She proudly lived in Shanghai, where she graduated from high school in Shanghai, Dwight High School, and International Baccalaureate School, with sites in London, Seoul, Dubai, and more. She has studied Mandarin for over 5 years, plans to continue her language learning throughout college. Makara hopes to work in diplomacy in the future. So I want to welcome both of our guests. I'm going to let Halima start first by just introducing herself. Then I'm going to ask questions. And Makara, you're going to do a little introduction. I know I did, but if it's anything you want the audience to know to focus on, please do. Take about a minute or so to speak to our audience today. Halima?
I want to say good afternoon, everyone. I'm confused with my time zone these days. Thank you for having me. I appreciate all of you and all the great things that you're doing, Frances, you and your team. I don't know, what else can I say about me? You've already said quite a bit, but as Frances said, my name is Halima Sharif. I'm the owner of HS Global Consulting. I'm a certified woman-owned minority PR firm globally. I actually started back in 2008, and it was Halima's World. And only because it was literally just me. When you're working in PR, and anyone out there who's worked in PR, people think it's just glamour life. We do a lot of work. We do a lot of writing. We do a lot of thinking. A lot of these brand campaigns you see all over the place. My Black is Beautiful, McDonald's 365 Black, that comes from people like us. And it's a lot of work involved with it. And so when at the end of the day, when you're working for a PR firm, either they run out of money or you get cut and there's no work for you. So you got to remain relevant. So in order for me to remain relevant, I had to start Halima's World and be as authentic as possible, because it literally was my world, anything I decided to get into. And then later on, about 2 years ago, I decided to rebrand it and call it HS Global Consulting, to go after minority contracts, to just be totally honest with you, and to build a team of people that I've worked with over the years, a little bit of everybody from the US, abroad, and different places. And I have a wonderful team of, we're all consultants, we're all 1099 employees. So whenever we get work, we work. And so I was blessed to go after some of the people that I used to work with, and we worked to get contracts. I've worked at a bunch of different places. I know this segment is on living abroad, but I've always been a person to just take a chance. I come from a family of musicians. My father was a well-known jazz musician from New Orleans, as I'm from New Orleans. Matter of fact, just to let you know, St. Francis is my cousin, not biologically, but I've always thought she was my cousin because our mothers knew each other really well. So we just assumed that was my cousin. I didn't find out until later on in college that the girl wasn't my cousin. I'm like, okay. But that's how New Orleans roll. Your neighbor, everybody related to you. And so my father and my mother have always instilled that sense of independence, being a business owner. It's something that I grew up with, being Muslim. I still am Muslim, and it's a part of our nature. So I've been able to work throughout the US and abroad at different companies, different PR firms. And at the end of the day, I'm like, man, I need to own this. These are my thoughts, my mindset. I need to bring people together. And at the end of the day, we all should be business owners, especially, what we bring to the table. So it's a blessing to be here. I'm not going to go too much into me to share exactly what I know about living abroad and the advantages you need to take, what to do to prepare for that. And once you get over there, some key things to do, because at the end of the day, you can't stay forever.
Correct. Anyway. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Helen. Makara, well, tell us about yourself, just in case I didn't add, and share with the audience the perspective Makara's given us from high school, even though she's in college. Go ahead, Makara. Unmute yourself. Go ahead.
Beautiful. Thank you, Francis. Hello, everybody. My name is Makara. Like Francis said, I'm a student at University of Chicago, and I'm studying global studies, hence my interest in being involved in this forum, especially since it's supposed to be geared towards sharing experiences of just being abroad. I am going to share my experiences as being a high school student, which is going to be a little bit different from a lot of the experiences that others are going to have while traveling abroad. But I think it does provide me a little bit of insight for people who are considering moving their families or just working out the kinks with education, economic development in different areas. And so I hope that interests everybody.
Well, thank you. Thank you both ladies. Halima, we're going to start with you. Sort of paint a picture of what was it that triggered you to say, look, I need to move and broaden my horizons. What happened? What was that thought, that mindset at the time? What were you going through? Go ahead and share.
Okay, so it was a perfect time. Working for myself was not easy. It literally was not easy. You get clients and you lose them, and at the end of the day, you got to pay your bills, you got to take care of your family, and it was rough. And so I don't like using the word hustle because I think it's just a bad word. But I was always a mover and shaker, and I'm like, you know what, I've always wanted to do this. My family's traveled abroad, done these things, done that things. And I want to be able to truly define and embrace what diversity really is, what inclusion really is. For a moment, I want to see what it's not, just say something that may kind of rub people the wrong way. But when you go into certain countries, depending on where you're going, you forget what color you are because nobody cares depending on where you are. Okay. And so I wanted to broaden my experience, my spiritual experience. I wanted to broaden my business experience. And the bottom line, I wanted to make a lot of money. Okay. Because a lot of times going overseas, depending on where you are, they're going to offer you more. They're going to accommodate you and give you more. And so the money is what really attracted me at the end of the day. Let's just keep it real. All right. You want to make a lot of money. And that was an opportunity, even in business or even working a 9-to-5, that was the most I've ever made. And now that I'm in business, there's a whole nother story. So that's a blessing. But yeah.
Tell them where. Tell them where.
So I lived in the Middle East. I lived in one of the best countries in the world. They have many countries in the Middle East and in Europe, but I lived in Qatar, and a lot of people pronounce it Qatar. Qatar is the wealthiest country in the world, not one of the wealthiest country in the world. They're the oil giants. And a lot of times when you hear about Middle Eastern countries, if you're only reading a textbook or if you're just living in the United States and you see the men and women dressed a certain way that you're like, oh my gosh, you automatically think the T word, okay? You just automatically assume because of the way society has put a label on these beautiful people, okay? And so for me, it was a beautiful experience because I'm Muslim. I was raised Muslim. That's all I've ever known from a spiritual standpoint, but at the same time, I've family members who are Christians and Jews and so forth and so on. But to be in a Muslim country as a Muslim woman and a Black Muslim woman, you forgot that you were even Black. You forgot, you just forget about certain things. And Qatar is one of the most accommodating countries that I've ever been to. There are many others, Dubai and Abu Dhabi, they're very generous with taking care of their employees and taking care of the family. So that was attractive to me. That was attractive to me and my family, my children, the spouse, everything. Because for us, I'm like, really? Why would I not? So then some people would say, well, girl, you're going all the way 7,000 miles away. What about family? Listen, my parents are no longer here. They're in the hereafter. And I think if circumstances were different, if they were here, I may have thought differently, but knowing me, I would have brought them with me because I would have wanted them, even though they've traveled abroad, I would have wanted them to experience that. When you are asked if you're offered an opportunity such as this, there's no reason to fear. Apparently it came to you for a reason. And I'm a firm believer that when you believe in something and we pray for something and we want something and we desire it that much, go after. Don't question it because it was meant for you in the first place. And the beautiful part about that is being able to share those beautiful experiences with your family and with your friends. And so for me, it was an opportunity for me to grow, for me to make money, and for me to just learn about some of the most beautiful people in the world. So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, it does. Thank you. Now, Makara, I want you to explain your journey. I know when your parents let's take it from when your parents first said to you, we're thinking about moving, because I know they made a choice. In an interview with her mom, guys, I did on Saturday, her mom made a choice. And she made a choice to wait until her first two daughters graduated. So Makara had the opportunity to sort of think about this move that her family, because they created a family plan before moving. So go ahead, share with us, Makara, your experience.
I've been studying Mandarin since 7th grade, and so when my parents told me that they were considering moving to China, I was like, "This sounds gorgeous. When are we doing this? I want to go immediately. Like, get me out of here now." And then they were like, "Well, we want you to finish out middle school. We want to see how you do for the first couple of years of high school. Then, if you're doing fine, if you're academically stable, if you're mentally stable, if all of these things work out and we still have this opportunity, then we're going to go ahead and do it." Then the summer after my freshman year of high school, they decided to make that move. And at the time, I had felt as though I had established like myself at my initial high school. So I didn't think that it was like the greatest time for me to move, especially given the fact that I had just moved to Chicago after years of not living there. And so I wanted to stay for a little while. So I went with them to Beijing and then spent the summer with them in Beijing. It was fantastic. I was able to use my Mandarin every single day. It was really, really hot and really muggy, but it was like the perfect way for me to assert whatever semblance of independence that I had at that age, especially since my parents didn't speak Mandarin. So I kind of had a leg up on them.
Oh, that was
And yes. And so after that summer, I came back to Chicago. And then that year without them was very difficult. I had not anticipated it to be as difficult as it was. I was like, okay, I'm independent now. My parents are great. I still have their support, but I don't need to be around them all the time. And then I was like, no, I kind of do need those extra years to like assist me with my like growing adulthood and like those last couple of years of adolescence. And so after sophomore year, I visited them in Shanghai for a bit. It was only meant to be a summer trip. And then I talked to the principal at the school that I ended up going to. She offered me a spot. I took all of the tests that I needed to take. And then it was like, well, I guess I'm moving then. And so I had to phone up my dad and was like, yeah, I'm not coming back for junior and senior year. I hope you don't hate me, but this is the path that I think I need to take, especially since like I had been learning Mandarin for so long, and it's such a big part of my life it was a big part of my life at that point that I was like, I'm going to take this chance because I have the support that I need and because it was presented to me in a way that showed me that it was the decision that I needed to make.
So what suggestions would you give to parents? Because we have a lot of people who middle management, and for our audience, middle management, they need to do some reconsideration. I shared with our panelists that I have about 5 clients who are considering now moving to other countries because they've been received notices of employment. So share with our audience, how should parents help the student adjust? Go ahead.
For sure. I would say that it's mostly a timing thing, like depending on where your child is at in their development, and how like secure they feel in themselves, because moving to a completely different country at a young age is a very jarring experience. And if you haven't developed a sense of self, if the child hasn't developed a sense of self, then a lot of what they experience afterwards will feel as though they don't have like a set home. They won't have like a set support system in the way that you would if you just stay in one place all 18 years of your life. And so assuring yourself that you have the resources and the time and the ability to take care of your child while still being abroad, and then teaching them important life skills that factor into independence, like just being able to take care of themselves. My parents, I think, were less hesitant about letting me move because I've always been a very independent person. And so they were just kind of like, well, she's going to adjust the best way she can. And if she has any questions or needs any help, she can always come to us. And that's kind of the relationship that we had to establish as a result.
Tell us too, how were you accepted in your new environment? How was the assimilation process? Was it easy? Was it challenging? Let's talk about that so our audience could have a view of that.
For sure. A lot of schools in Shanghai specifically, and in a lot of places abroad, end up like catering to international students. But the school that I went to was predominantly Chinese. And so I was the only Black student. I was the only American student. There were a few mixed kids like from Korea or Taiwan or who were white and Chinese, but I was the only like Black person at my school. And so I tried not to think of it from an assimilation standpoint. I was just kind of like, I do not want to concede my personality, my Blackness to create this like persona of someone that fits in the environment. So I tried really hard to preserve just my sense of self, even when trying to make friends. So of course I use Mandarin when I'm talking to my friends all the time, but I'm not going to be less animated. I'm not going to censor the language that I use just so they will accept me more. It was more so, you're going to take me as I am, and I'm going to take you as you are. And if we can meet in the middle, that's fantastic. If not, I'm not going to detract from myself in a way that I don't need to, especially at that
Very good. Girl, you are thebomb.com.
time.
Halima. Okay, so let's talk about your experience. When you got the offer, how did you, again, okay, this time you have a husband, you have kids. What was going through your head? Bring our audience through that when you went to Qatar, because we know that the amenities are great. I've been to Dubai and Sharjah and Abu Dhabi, so I'm just letting you know the amenities are great. But what in your head, what were you thinking about? Because I remember when you called me to tell me you were moving, and I thought it was fantastic. Because I knew that the experience there was going to be really, really great for you, and it was going to take your business to the next level. So give our audience, okay, here I'm married, I'm a mom. How did you tell your husband? Walk us through those steps.
Before I say anything, let me tell you something, young sister. Matkara, how you pronounce your name?
Yeah.
You are
Makara,
awesome.
yes.
You are just amazing. I'm sitting here like, you got a beautiful spirit, but that's another conversation. Okay. Let me tell you, I was flabbergasted. Okay. And I'm sitting up here saying to myself, okay, I never have a problem with living abroad anyway. So, but to actually look at those numbers, I just wanted to make sure I wasn't going crazy. Like, really, I'm like, huh? And then I'm saying to myself, okay, I got to play it cool. People post their whole life on social media. All right, I'm not a fan of that. People don't even know my personal life too much. People probably don't know marriage or none of that stuff because it's nobody's business. And a lot of times people post stuff in real time. So I had to tell myself, okay, calm down, talk to the husband, talk to the children. Well, not my 30, he holds my oldest son, he's 31, so he's on his own, but he ended up coming later too. But at the time, my almost 21-year-old was like 14 years old. And he's like, huh? What? I don't know them people. Of course, I don't. You don't know the people around the corner. So you think about that kind of stuff, and you say to yourself, okay, I know I got bills to catch up on. I know I got this. I got finances, and a lot of times when you go overseas, or even if you win the lottery, which I've never won the lottery, but I guess I win the lottery when I think about it. You really have to think about your finances. You think about your family. You think about your finances. You think about investments. You think about a lot of things that you may not have thought about before. You don't think about, okay, I'm gonna buy me a Lexus, I'm gonna do this. Don't think like that. You gotta really take your time, baby steps. Number one, the spouse didn't care, because I'm one of these people that we just keep a suitcase packed with Halima. You just never know. Seriously, you just keep, and I think that came from my father. My father was a musician, so we were always moving, Francis, living in Chicago, lived here. I mean, we were always moving, so that's been a part of my lifestyle. Okay, so that was not a problem. So it's a blessing to have someone like that in your life. With a little 14-year-old, it's a different story, because what about my friends? And it's interesting how, families, a lot of time parents will be like, boy, don't be worried about them friends. You're gonna make some new friends, but you just can't tell a kid that. What about your friends? So you got to kind of like say, look, man, here's the deal. Just keep it real. We need some damn money. Excuse my language. Okay, we need to pay bills. We need to do this. You're going to have an opportunity to grow, to learn different languages, to meet some wonderful people, to truly embrace humanity on a totally different level. And when he got over there, he was excited. Now, the first time we got over there was kind of funny because it was just him and I at first. The rest of everybody else didn't come until later. So it was just him and I had to get him ready for school. So that's another thing, trying to get him ready for school. Certain people wearing thobes, he's wearing jeans. He's trying to figure out, okay, it's a Muslim country. There are rules and regulations you have to abide by. Every country is different. Dubai is a little laid back like New York, but Qatar is not one of them countries. It's very strict to a certain degree, but there's still a sense of beauty and humanity and respect. So I'm trying to explain to this little kid, look, don't look at women a certain way, man. Don't do this. Don't say that. Please don't say no curse words, because we're going to get X'd out this country. If somebody's driving crazy, look, my son was born in New York and we lived in New York for a long time. So here it is. The people drive there really crazy because they're coming from different parts of the world. Nobody has any sense of stop signs and red lights and green lights. And I'm like, okay. So many times I just want to curse somebody out, but I can't do it. I can't even put my finger out the window. So there's a lot of things you have to think about. Like, okay, tell your child not to do this. If you're in a car accident or don't take a picture, you have to really learn the rules of that country because they are very particular about certain things. So that was one thing. That was easy to do. And then getting over there, learning the culture, appreciating the culture, spending time with different people. You got to realize in Qatar, you've got people from Europe, you got people from Nigeria, Kenya, you've got people from Pakistan, Lebanon, Syria. You got to realize there are different dynamics in each culture, even though people are speaking Arabic, but there are different versions of that Arabic, just like in the Asian culture. So there are certain things you have to respect and understand where they're coming from because we're not of the same village, but we are of the same humanity, put it like that. And so it took a while to adjust. I have to tell you, it was kind of lonely for a minute because, you got, even though we have daylight saving time, there was no daylight saving time. We just changed with New York, Chicago, DC, Atlanta. And then I have to remind myself, okay, I'm 8 hours ahead, 9 hours ahead, 7 hours ahead. Then you keep all these time zones intact and you get confused. And then you start missing your family. You start missing certain people. So it's a pure adjustment, but it's a pure joy. It just really, one of the things I just like to say is you really need to do all your homework before you leave to go to those countries, especially a Middle Eastern country. Everything in the textbook is not what it is. It is not what it is. There have been many misconceptions about the people in Qatar, the people in Dubai, the people in Pakistan. Those are some beautiful people. They're human beings just like us. But getting to know them, getting to understand the culture, getting to know how certain emails are written. For example, a lot of folks in the UK, you just can't say hello with an exclamation point. They think you're cursing them out. So everything is dear Halima, dear Francis, dear Jasmine. It's so eloquent. It's so beautiful. So you learn to flow and adjust accordingly. And you find yourself taking that with you when you come home to visit. You find yourself realizing you're toning yourself down. And I don't know if this was the same for you, Makara, but I did tell you, I will say this much. I finally knew what it felt like to have a balanced life, to have a sense of peace and tranquility. The way the time works in the Middle East, they work from Sunday through Thursday. So we're off on Fridays and Saturdays. And so it was a little off. And the reason being, Muslim country, Jummah, which is the congregation of prayers on Friday. So the Friday is like the Sunday in the US for church. And so adjusting to that was different. But I can tell you this much. The beautiful thing in America, we work our butts off. Okay? Over there in that country, they know how to go to sleep. They know how to have fun, but they know how to get some sleep. They know how to value family. I never got any emails at a late hour of the night. Anytime, Sunday through Thursday, work. Unless it was a sense of emergency. That's it. But they truly value our sense of humanity and our sense of time. So that's something that you get used to. And that's something you still have to prepare your children for because they're going to adjust differently. Every child is different. You had a great experience because you wanted to go. You were already independent. My son was complaining the whole time until he finally realized, oh man, this is cool. So when I had a chance to invite the 31-year-old over there, he got himself set up. He didn't mind because he's an international person himself. So it worked out fine for all of us.
Thank you for sharing that. Also, too, can you share with our audience as a Black female now, going to work perceptions, misconceptions? How did, because I know you work with a very diverse team of people. When you would send pictures, you would show us the diverse team of individuals, Halima. So explain the work experience. Actually now, here you're starting this job, you have to create it, because I know you were the creator around a lot of things. So explain to our audience that the job experience.
It was interesting. You know, my role over there was executive. What's my role? Executive director of communications um, for the Virginia Commonwealth University has a university in Qatar, a sovereign university. So it's BCR's Qatar. Um, and once again, I mentioned earlier, you have people from Europe, you got people from the UK, you got just all over the place. So here I am, not only a Black woman, but a Black Muslim woman. My team, and I still keep in touch with these wonderful people, my team were Muslim women, non-Muslim women, non-Muslim men, non-Muslim men, okay? And some from Lebanon, some from Syria, some from Sudan, just different places. Some who were dressed in full hijab, which is like the full covering. You may see the Black or the all white with the hijab and like nothing shown. And then you have some who don't dress like that. And it's okay. But there is a modesty. You know, you will always find modesty in that country because I'm very modest in my dress. You have to also realize that everybody speaks different languages, even when they're speaking Arabic. So here I am, an American university in the Middle East. You know, I have to adjust to the different dialect, um, the approach to language, ensuring that whatever was written, whether it was a press release or a marketing program or a brochure, that it was translated in English and Arabic, and ensuring that no way in the world that we were being offensive to anybody. So the beauty of that is having a team of individuals, communications professionals who are in the same space as I am in PR communications and marketing, but they speak the language and able to translate it. And I was learning as we had gone along. But you have to, there are a lot of sensitivities when you're dealing with, in Arabic, when you're dealing with genders. You know, it's a different way you say certain things in Arabic when you're dealing with women and vice versa for the men. At the same time, coming from America as a Black woman, you know, there was this group that I still belong to called the Brothers and Sisters of Qatar. And that was our little group of Black men and women coming together from different parts of the US for our moment. You know, when the Black Panther movie came out, we all gathered and had a little party. You know, we have our little gatherings because we, at the end of the day, we still are Black at the end of the day, you know, and some women who are in those countries and some men don't know what it's like to be Black in America. And even when they go visit, they don't know what it's like to be a Black woman or Black man in America. And don't get me wrong, as a woman, there is some sense of challenge when, you know, the Black women are already reviewed as who she thinks she is. You know, like we have big mouths, we talk too much, you know, we're very outspoken. And I am very outspoken, but at the same time, I'm also very respectful, but I'm not going to keep my mouth shut, you see? And so you're going to find in certain situations in the Middle East that you're going to be challenged. You're going to be challenged by your staff. You're going to be challenged with the fact about me being a Muslim woman. Like, who does she think she is coming in here? I don't care if she is Muslim. I don't care if she does have experience, but she doesn't know our culture. You're right, I don't. But I understand the business. I understand how to navigate accordingly. But that's why I have a team of people who can work with me to make it happen beautifully. And you're finding yourself constantly trying to navigate around those challenges, constantly trying to make everybody happy, but you can't make everybody happy. So diversity and inclusion exists in its own sense over there, but just in a different type of flavor. You know, here in America, when we're dealing with EDI issues, it's exhausting. You know, it's frustrating because we're constantly having to prove ourselves, like, why we need this, why Black Lives Matter. So there, you know, you got to realize there are challenges in those countries too. There are challenges in Syria and Sudan. So you know, the empathy is there. It's just the dynamics are different. And so you can't come across as if your life matters more than theirs, because all of our lives do matter when you're in those areas. It does make a difference. So you constantly tiptoeing, but at the same time, you're constantly being direct. I have to tell y'all this one more thing. When you're dealing in a country like that, you got to realize some of the women who were raised a certain way, there are certain things they just don't know. Certain things they don't know, not just about Black culture, but how things are done in different communities. So whenever we would bring the students to the United States, to the campus in Richmond, and to introduce them to them different cultures, we literally had to break down what diversity and inclusion is. Why do you call yourself an African American? Why do you call yourself this? What is LGBTQ? When it's not being talked about over there. Those conversations are not being talked about. Even when it comes to certain issues of mental illness, some of those things are not discussed. So you have to really be sensitive, but you have to learn the culture, you have to learn the people, and learn not to judge, but learn to understand. And that was the key the whole time I was there, not just being in communications, because that's all I do is read, but spending time and understanding and getting to know people and letting them get to know you, and sharing your world with them and sharing their world with, vice versa, is very, very helpful.
Thank you so much. What you have shared, because when I went to Dubai in 2010, I visited the American university system. And Dubai has zones, American zone, British zone. And the women were only able to take Muslim studies in college. I don't know if that's true today. I think maybe things have changed, but you're absolutely correct. And our role there, we were with Leadership America, our role there was to make those connections and help bridge the relationships with Muslim women as they begin the journey to move in the workforce. Because at the time they weren't driving, but now, you know what I'm saying? Things have changed. They're moving into the workforce, they're driving. And like you said, culture is very, very important. Now, Makara, let's look at you. Let's go back to you and let's talk about your senior year and the decisions you make it. Do you make the decision to maybe stay in Shanghai? What caused you to come to the University of Chicago? So let's talk about your decision making. Go ahead.
For sure. Before going into my senior year, I participated in a summer program at Yale. And because like my entire life, I had been so heavily invested in the American higher education system, I feel like I was still very much in that frame of mind, especially since at T-Bell Dwight, a lot of the students are going internationally. I mean, going to America anyways for finishing their education. And so because I was still part of that, I still felt as though I wanted to come back just to see what it felt like after spending 2 years abroad, and then seeing because I figured I figured it would feel a lot like culture shock, even though it shouldn't feel like culture shock.
Yeah.
But so after I did that summer program, I was still very interested in going and coming back to America for college. And so my senior year, I completed all of my my college applications. I applied to a school in Singapore that I got into, but I could not take it due to financial limitations, obviously. And so I was waiting for all of my acceptances, and senior year was a little bit of a tumultuous year just because towards the end of it, we were dealing with the beginning stages of COVID. And right when COVID hit, I had to complete some final exams, and I was in New York. And so the worry was going to be that I couldn't get back to Shanghai because I was kind of just in the middle of everything. But while I was in New York, I completed a couple of interviews with different colleges, and none of them, a lot of universities in America didn't really pique my interest the way that I wanted them to. And then a couple of schools in the UK I considered, but the programs were a little bit too short for me, or they weren't exactly what I needed. And so after I filled out my application for University of Chicago and got accepted, I was like, we're here. And they have a really, really amazing global studies program that helps bridge the gap between like political science and then language/civilization studies. And so that's kind of where I'm at now. And I knew that I wanted to continue down a track of like language learning, diplomacy, like civilization studies, that type of thing. And so knowing that and having my experiences in China inform that decision was really beneficial. So
Good,
that was
good, awesome, awesome. So audience, I'm gonna allow you to put some questions you may have for our guests, but just let us know who the question is for. So you're gonna put Halima and then the question, or Makara, then the question. But before we end, I want you, Makara, to kind of give the audience three key things that they need to think about if they want to make the move abroad. Three key things from your perspective.
Okay. Number one, either language proficiency or being comfortable with not speaking the language and like having the emotional fortitude to be able to deal with that. Two, relative financial security, just because you never know what's going to happen while you're abroad, and just anything could happen. Like there were a few kinks with my family, and so it was good for us to have family back here to take care of that. But if we hadn't have had that, it would have been much, much more difficult. And three, just a thirst for wanting to succeed in whatever you decide to do, because without that, a lot of things can feel like just disenchanting and hard. Sometimes it feels like you're in limbo when you feel like you should be doing more for yourself or for whatever your goals are. But yeah, just those three.
Thank you so much for sharing. Go ahead, Halima. Three key things.
Number one, understand your contract. Like really, really read that contract for everything that it represents and everything that it is. Make sure you're not leaving anything undone. You know, if it's the money that you want to make, the accommodations. You remember, you're going to a new country and there are a lot of things you need to know. So really read that contract thoroughly. Don't just get so excited and say, okay, I'm signing by the dotted line. Secondly, once you get all squared away, pay off your bills. Save your money and invest. You know, one of the things I was able to do, like I have a company, my company is based in the US and is registered in different states, but I was able to register over there, but that's a whole nother story. They didn't talk to me about that offline. So I was able to register in certain parts of the Middle East so I can get contract work there as well. And then once you're over there, travel as much as you can, especially since you're closer and the airlines are cheaper now that, you know, everybody's not really totally open up, but, you know, if you're over there, travel, get to go to those different countries. Don't go home. Like, what you need to go home for? You got Zoom, talk to them on Zoom, you know, invite them if they can come. But yeah, do as much traveling as possible. That's it.
Thank you, Halima. We do have a question. Our question was, if you're looking for employment abroad, what sites would you recommend? And I know you put something in there, but say to the audience, what would you recommend?
There are several sites. You know, I'm a fan of the Cutter Foundation. They're just an amazing organization. The royal family is just amazing. But go check out the Cutter Foundation website. There are other sites. I don't know if there are teachers on the line, but there are like teaching abroad sites. There are sites on social media, on LinkedIn, Facebook. There are different Blacks living abroad groups. I got a slew of them in my head, but like I just put my email address in there. Feel free to email me and I can just send you a whole slew of places you can check out.
And Makara, you put your email address also. So if people want to reach out to you, especially with their children, they can have thank you so much. Okay, so we have another question. Halima, this is for you. What were living accommodations like housing, transportation, utilities?
Child, let
Disgusting.
me say, I'm just gonna say, child, let me tell you. Okay, so basically, it was wonderful. You know, we had, I think I must have moved like twice. Okay, you had an opportunity to live in a villa or an apartment. Okay, and so when you think apartment, especially I lived in New York for so long, and I'm originally from New Orleans. In our mind, 3 bedroom, 2 bath. No, you're thinking 900 square feet? No, child. We're talking more like 3,000 or 4,000 square feet. I'm like, who's gonna live here? Ain't nothing but three of us. So you get a chance, depending on the company that you're working with, they have a list of homes and villas or apartments to choose from. And what basically happens is that normally you'll get like 4 bedrooms, and then you have a maid's quarter if you want to have a living maid. Um, Only thing, you don't have to pay for rent, you don't pay for electricity, you don't pay for your car. Only thing you don't pay for your child's education in just private school. So I didn't have to pay for my son's education. Um, they gave him a cell phone when we got there. I had a cell phone. They accommodate the husband. I'm like, it's like really hilarious. Um, the only thing we really paid for was food, clothes, and travel and gas. That's it.
And what she's saying is right. Even in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, same thing. Because as we started learning about the culture and different universities were trying to recruit several of our team members. What she's saying is right. The villas we visited, the whole package is just great. Makara's Aunt Joe, you're going to hear from her experience in 2008. She's from the St. Louis, Missouri area. Well, what did we have? The Great Recession. So she went to Dubai again. She received 20% more than what she received here in the States to teach school. So can you speak on to income tax? How does income tax impact you, Halima? Speak to that.
Well, that's a great question. Let me just share with you that we were tax exempt in the Middle East, in Qatar. So we didn't have to worry about so whatever you got paid, that's what you got paid. However, don't get it twisted. You're still an American citizen.
Right.
And, we were also assigned, PwC was our assigned tax, even though I have my own tax person. But since they were assigned, why use mine? I got to pay for it. So they assigned PwC, and they manage all of our taxes for us. And so you have to figure out how much you want to be taken out of your tax simply because you're still an American citizen. Like, for example, because I wasn't in the US, I couldn't be called to do jury duty. So I had to send them information saying I'm no longer on the books. However, I can do my voting from absentee voting. But you need to sit down with your tax accountant and think about how that's going to affect you later on, whether you're 1099, W-2, whatever that may be. I would make it a point. I'm just going to give you a number, a range. You want to at least take $800 to $1,000 per paycheck, but it depends on how much money you're making too. You don't want to kill yourself, but just, think about what that looked like if you were in the US. There's no FICA. There's none of that other stuff. They're taking care of your insurance. So just remove the taxes per se, minus all the other stuff that America charges you with. Hope that answers the question.
Yeah, and it does. And she's correct. You're going to have to really do your due diligence before you leave. I would say that's a part of the checklist. Currently, both Halima and Makara, our cash flow collateral class, we're learning about currencies and the various currencies. And as we go into tax planning, estate planning, that is a very important subject. Once you work overseas, how does that affect you? Because for some people, if you don't plan well, you're going to get hit. You're going to get hit hard. And that was a good question. So for our guests, we want to thank you. Now, guys, y'all show them some Sam Wesley Holmes Jr. Community Outreach Love. We thank you. This was a great, great session because both of our guests have such a wealth of information and knowledge. And please reach out to them and ask questions if you need to. Remember, this is an option for you to consider working abroad as an American citizen. And we want you to know that other people were able to do it. Don't forget tomorrow, let me share my screen. Tomorrow's sessions. Uh-oh, I think my screen is showing off. Okay, so tomorrow's sessions is workforce transition, making the transition from employee to employer, business opportunities within the sharing economy, Airbnb, Turo Rentals. That's tomorrow. We start at 11. Don't forget our text to give, 214-4441-6751. We want to thank you. We want to thank our guests. We appreciate everyone for being in this session on today. Any last comments that you want to make, Halima, and then you, Makara, any last comments?
I just want to say thank you to everyone. I think you ladies and gents are doing a great job. Francis, you are phenomenal. Jasmine, I said to you earlier, if I came across like I was going crazy, please pardon me. We just landed a new contract and I was like, huh? So, many blessings to you all. And, I got to be a PR person. I'm about to say something. So I have a show. You mentioned earlier, Anything and Everything. We're celebrating our first anniversary Friday. I had no intention on this show going viral. I was just running my mouth doing nothing because of COVID giving us something to do. And so celebrating 1 year on Friday, and I've had some wonderful people on there. I've had comedian Lunel. I've had like some amazing musicians and artists. So I'm interviewing, the next segment airs Thursday and Friday. I'm interviewing a wonderful brother, friend of mine from New York, who used to work with Arista Records and Najee and a bunch of people. That's Thursday. Everything airs at 6 o'clock. And Friday, I'm interviewing my brother. Yeah, I'll put it in there. Interviewing my brother, who's a world-renowned musician, and you may have heard his music on Lifetime. He was the musical coordinator for Ray, a bunch of other stuff. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. I'll put
Jamil is fabulous. He was in Ray. And so you got to understand, I'm proud when I see my folk, I get proud. So are you gonna, okay, so you put anythingiseverything.com. Makara, anything, last words here?
I just wanted to say thank you to everybody. Thank you, Jasmine and Francis, for facilitating this. I really appreciated having this opportunity. And be sure to reach out. I put my email in the chat. But if you guys have any other questions, just shoot me an email.
Okay. Now, I'm coming to Shanghai next year to visit your family. And so we're going to get together. We'll do another segment, ladies, a follow-up where they're now and what's going on to follow. So we will keep in touch with you. Thank you, everyone, for taking your time out to be with us today. If there are any questions or anything, please reach out to us at info@ZWHJCOC.org. And we'll see you on tomorrow. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.